Welcome to Cloud Automation Guide, where we simplify DevOps, cloud, and automation for everyone. In this video, we're covering one of the most essential setup steps in Aria Automation, image mappings and flavor mappings. These mappings allow you to standardize operating systems and VM sizes across cloud providers, whether you're deploying to vSphere, AWS, or Azure. Let's break it down and walk through the configuration step by step. Let's start with image mappings. These are used to define a friendly, reusable label, for example, Ubuntu or Windows, and then map that label to the actual image IDs or templates in each connected cloud account. So when you write a cloud template, you can simply refer to either Ubuntu or Windows or whatever the image mapping name is, and Aria Automation will know which image to use based on the deployment target. So to create an image mapping, the first thing we have to do is we have to come to Assembler. Once we're in Assembler, we're going to click on the Infrastructure tab. Over on the left-hand side, underneath Configure, you can scroll down to Image Mappings. Notice I currently have an image mapping called Windows 2022. If we click into it, you will notice that I actually have multiple cloud accounts connected to my Aria Automation environment. In each cloud account, for example, this is being Windows 22 as the friendly name, I do have a template within my vCenter that I named Windows-2022. It doesn't have to match, it just so happens that it does. However, you'll notice that in the AWS endpoint that I have, the Windows 22 Server 22 image I selected has a completely different, or at least appended name than my image name. What this means is in my cloud template, I can reference this friendly name, and if I'm deploying to vCenter, it will deploy from this virtual machine template. If I'm deploying to the AWS endpoint, it will deploy from this AWS AMI image. This gives me the ability to reuse at scale or deploy virtual machines across different cloud accounts without having to do any complex coding statements or anything that would require me to say, if this endpoint, then this image name, or this endpoint, then this image name. No, I simply have to refer to this particular image name. So to create an image mapping, we just go ahead and click on New. You must give it a name, but let me just check my image mappings that I have available to me for, I'm going to do an Ubuntu image, if I spell it right. And what do we have? We have 22.04. My vCenter, I have a 24.04. Let me see if I have a 24.04 within, what do I have available to me? Well, we will just go with the 22. Typically, you wouldn't mix versions. Just when I created this for this demo, I want to show you the difference of, like I did with the Windows, that you can see there's two different images that you're actually pulling from, but we're going to call it by the same name. And that's how you create an image mapping. Typically, if you were wanting to reference it, I'll show you, here's an image or a cloud template that I have. And when you go to image to reference it, all you have to do is on this property over here, that's called image. You just select the image mapping that you want, and voila. When this machine gets deployed, it will be pulling from that particular image. Now, for flavor mappings, again, we go back over to the infrastructure. We click on flavor mapping. You'll notice that I currently have a flavor mapping that I have called small. And small, basically, what you define in here will be up to your organizational preferences. Like specifically, it's usually kind of around payment for the different environments. But it's like, in AWS, small might be T2 micro or something that's small, a T2 small, for instance. I did T2 micro just because I use a free tier in AWS, and so if I deploy to it, I want to make sure I'm deploying to something that's not going to cost me any money. In my home lab, I've defined small as being, say, 2 processors and 4 gigs of RAM, right? And then no, that's pretty much it. So we click save, and that's small. If I wanted to find medium, I select my cloud account. I can type, let me see, T2 dot medium. I'll do my vCenter, and I'll call this, let's see, we'll do it 4 CPUs, 8 gigs of RAM, and then this over here is the number of cores per socket. You can define that. So if I was to define this as 2, what would happen is you would end up with a two socket, 2 core system, 2 core per socket system. Otherwise, you can just leave it by default and just let vCenter's vNUMA take over. Create, and then we'll create one more. We'll call this large. And again, choose our AWS region. I could choose a second region if I wanted to. T2.large. And let's say we want to do like an M2. Oh, not M2, but what we got here? M7. There's extra larges. What we got? There we go. We just say that one large. And then for our vCenter on-prem, we'll just call it an 8 processor, 16 gig system. And that's a large. And then again, if you want to use these, you just come back over to your cloud template, and there is a property called flavor, and you can define what you want, small, medium, or large. And that's pretty much it when it comes to setting up image mappings and flavor mappings. So some things to keep in mind: keep your name simple and consistent. Use lowercase. Try to avoid mixing cases. Um, Things do, like if you were to try to incorporate with Aria Orchestrator, say for maybe based upon user inputs or where the user might be going, that you have Aria Orchestrator actually update the properties on the cloud template. So you can actually have Orchestrator update these properties. If you start mixing cases and you don't update your Orchestrator code to account for those differences in cases on your definitions, you can end up with failures and have to troubleshoot. So keep your naming consistent, preferably all lowercase. And it also helps if you have numbers mixed in that you're not confusing an uppercase O with a 0. Try to use the same mapping across providers. This allows you to deploy the same template to multiple clouds without changing the blueprint. Make sure you audit your mappings periodically. If you do any underlying changes or changes to instance types, make sure that your image mappings stay up to date. And then also try to pair mappings with capability tags if you want to control where specific images or flavors are getting used. And that's pretty much it. So thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please be sure to like and subscribe to be able to continue to get updates on when more tutorials are released. If you would like some detailed textual walkthroughs to follow through at your leisure, as well as downloadable content for Aria Automation, for example, cloud templates or custom forms, or things like orchestrator actions or workflows, appreciate it if you head over to cloudautomationguide.com, where you can find all sorts of those resources at your disposal as well. Up next, we will be diving into cloud templates, uh, more like what you see here, which is the heart of your infrastructure as code workflow. I'll see you there.